Hello again. So the last video that I posted was asking you guys what you wanted our album to be about. Now, I gave you a few ideas, a few suggestions to get the juices flowing, but today I'm gonna go through all the responses that I had, the comments and emails, and basically outline what you guys resonated with, maybe some new ideas, and then hopefully trying to piece some of that together. So, for anyone who's new here, my name is Pace Randolph, and I'm putting together the world's largest collaborative album that anyone can be a part of. I put together choirs of hundreds to thousands of my fans, and they feature on my music under their own artist name, the choir Imperfect. We're aiming to have 100,000 people sing on the record, so if you'd like to help brainstorm, write, and then sing and record the record with me, just sign up through the link in my bio or below, and yeah, I'll see you there. I have spent pretty much all week or a week and a half replying to emails. I think I've replied to everybody, but I just wanted to say thank you once again to everyone who's contributed. I'm kind of blown away by the depth and the length of some of the responses, so I really appreciate that. Thank you guys for thinking about it, and yeah, let's get into it. So today I'm going to go through some of the responses that stood out to me the most. If I'm being honest, some of them were just chosen at random because I didn't have time to get through all of them, but yeah, I hope you appreciate that. I can't get through every single email in these videos, but hopefully I've responded to everybody. So the first topic that I talked about in the last video was this idea of finding my tribe or finding your tribe. I think that is something that resonated with me in particular because that's how I feel kind of when I first put together the choir. I've spoken about this and I feel like that it just makes sense. Like we're bringing all these people together. That's kind of like could be like an overarching theme of the record. So here are some of the responses that you guys had to that idea. Ashley Kahalane, I don't know how to say that, but the first idea he came up with fits the choir Imperfect the best, which we may find out that a lot of people agree with you on that. But she said, I think it would be cool if in a way the album tells the story of feeling that imperfection, wrestling with it, and finding out this is where I belong. And so I guess embracing imperfect is one of the things, it's like one of my favorite songs that I've written, and it's kind of like the mantra of, I guess, my life mantra and the artist project. So I totally forgot about this idea of imperfection because I guess I'm just so used to like thinking about it or whatever. But I had a few people reply being like, I can't believe you didn't even think about like embracing imperfect or like that side of things in terms of a concept to sing about. So I admit that I made a mistake there, but yeah, Ashley brought it up and was like, look, telling the story of that imperfection, wrestling with it, then finding out that this is where I belong. I really like this one response from Amy. She said, I still remember shitting my pants sending that video in of me singing. I kind of take it for granted because I'm comfortable singing and that's what I do. But for a lot of people that have contributed to the choir so far, it's like it's a big thing and they're nervous to submit those videos. And I always say, like, if you don't want to post it publicly, you can send it to me privately if you don't want it to be, seen by other people. And she said that was such a big thing for her, knowing that she was like a part of something as big as, the choir, but it's still really daunting for her. So maybe tackling those kind of emotion. Amy said something that I really wanted to point out. She said, I believe words have power. What we say puts energy out into the universe about what we want and who we are. All the songs about cheating, doing people wrong, or doing horrible things to people, they send out bad vibes, and I'm not about putting bad things into the universe. Now, I don't think many of my songs, if any of my songs, are giving out bad vibes. I try to be honest, uplifting, and introspective, but I really want to kind of remember that throughout the album is that like I'm trying to represent the best in humanity because that's what I feel like this choir represents, rather than talking about stuff that I wouldn't be proud of putting out in the world and that we wouldn't be proud to put out into the world. So definitely taking on board that feedback. Fiona Sunday said, you always have to float around multiple different friend groups to try and see who you vibe with. It can be tricky and take a long time. For me, theater kids at college were that group. Once I vibe with them most out of anyone, I felt like I belonged somewhere. That's a pretty special feeling. That kind of sums up the choir pretty nicely, and it makes a lot of sense how Fiona found her way here. We're gonna be hard pressed to avoid these idea of like finding your tribe. Man, I mean, Gino DeGraff, I don't know if you mind me sharing this, but they actually said, I don't think I have found my tribe. In a way, I've found a group of people who are the same as me and we have the same interests, but I pretend to be someone else when I'm with them, and I blame myself for this. I don't know who I am. First of all, I really appreciate the honesty in this. I think a lot of people can relate to that. You put on these masks when you're with different groups of people, and it's very important to have at least one group of people or a small, maybe a couple of people that you can actually be yourself with. And hopefully this album can explore that and make people feel a little bit more connected in an honest way to everybody else. Marilyn, I talked about you in the last video I made, I think. I'm so grateful that I found your choir on TikTok and joined it. Nothing is more beautiful to have such a great passion for music and to be able to share it with each other. I don't think we're going to be able to get away from this finding your tribe theme, but we should move on. The other theme I talked about was this Dear Diary, having like multiple people have their diary entries, and the songs kind of represent different time periods and different problems from different people's lives, but the thing that ties them all together is that they're all kind of like writing letters to themselves or to their diary. So Jessica Chamberlain said, I love the diary idea, especially with so many people coming together from all places, ages. You get so many incredible stories, but then at the same time, so much assurance that no matter where we are, we're all on this rock orbiting a star together, and that's pretty effing cool. Kind of also ties in with the finding your tribe thing, but I like it as a way of tying like the concepts together while being able to tell multiple people's stories. Because essentially, like, if this was an album just by me, then I just tell my story. Now that's tempting to do, and I feel like some of the best music is made by people telling their own stories, but what we're trying to do here is represent a large group of people from all corners of the world. So I think it could be a way to do that, but still have a central theme that ties it all together. Heather Reynolds, who has been a great contributor so far, I appreciate you a lot, Heather, said, teenagehood was hard for me. Everything I wrote was negative in her diary. Some personal stuff. Basically, she wrote some stuff that I'll probably leave out. I was angry and I blamed the world, so a Dear Diary concept for me would scream anger. Lol. Yeah, it's not all going to be roses. In fact, I think a lot of this album is going to be pretty, I say heavy, but like, you know, raw stuff that people want to get off their chest. And I like that. I appreciate the honesty, and yeah, there's going to be room for some angry songs. Brunilda, their diary idea is fantastic. I love it. Julia Antonishin, I think I'm saying that right. I think it would be a cool way to highlight different voices. My only caution would be to make sure that the album still has an overarching voice that connects it all. Now, it's a really good point. From when we were listening back to concept albums and reviewing them, one of the things that's really important is to have like a strong sound and a theme that connects everything. Otherwise, it can kind of feel just like, oh, here's a bunch of songs. We found a link, like a loose link. Now, obviously, my voice is going to tie it all together. I'd like to have some other voices, obviously like the choir, but like other people taking different parts. It's going to be a trick to have different characters or different people writing stories, but to have it sound like a piece. So something to be aware of. All right, the next theme we had, I suggested, was the mentors throughout your life. People who advise you and teach you things, and that relationship. People said their mentors were their parents, their coaches, sports coaches, teachers. But I really like this one idea from Jen B. said, what if your mentor was yourself? It's kind of like the inner child versus your present self, which is actually a really beautiful concept. Mentoring your inner child is like reparenting them as you grow older. I feel like anyone who's like dealt with maybe some kind of therapy or done personal development work will really be able to resonate with that. I think that alone as a concept at least deserves a song. And I guess that's what a diary is you're almost like getting your thoughts onto paper and processing them in a way of teaching yourself. So I thought that was particularly cool. The next theme we had was history. This idea of like, because I'm a bit of a history nerd, I was like, oh, what if we had like great people throughout history and had like their thoughts, maybe even intertwined with the Dear Diary thing. So like you were getting snapshots from problems or thoughts that people had throughout history. Even great people had the same problems as you. Now, Jenna McLagan said, I really like the idea of the heroes of history concept, tying all their stories together, pulling from that concept and the diary concept together, like kind of like what I just said, but she said it first. I feel like it would be really cool to find a common thread between the heroes of history and normal everyday heroes in the modern world, especially finding a connection between past iconic figures and every regular person. Maybe touch on the fact that all the heroes were just regular people too. That could be a cool thing to play around with. Like if we're doing the Dear Diary stuff, throw in a couple of people who are like famous people throughout history and just like have that as like a interesting juxtaposition. Neve Stevenson said historical heroes. Whoa! Now that would be a fucking vibe. We could cover topics of real importance, how some figures literally changed the world we live in today for the better. Cover topics of just like normal everyday life, mundane shit that we all go through. So yeah, appreciate the enthusiasm there. Lise Girard-Domergue, I butchered that name, but I was thinking maybe combining mentors and heroes, since many heroes were mentors, like Socrates, who was a philosopher, was a mentor to Plato. Honestly, in my life, I feel like I've been mentored by people throughout history just by reading their biographies and learning about their lives. So yeah, we can kind of tie a lot of these concepts together, which is interesting. In order to sort of make this not the longest video in the world, I'm going to go through now some of the other suggestions that we had. Olivia Brown said, I feel like you missed the largest point about the choir imperfect, and it's the imperfection aspect. I kind of touched on this at the beginning. We all make mistakes, we're all learning, growing, changing, have character flaws, and all overcome challenges through persistence. Relationships aren't flawless, and neither are any of the choir members. Now, I love this a lot, and 100%. We're going to be touching on that. We had overcoming challenges, memories and like the history thing is something we could tie on. Dreams, love and acceptance, fear, isolation, triumph. So these are just some of the topics that you guys threw out into the void. And I want to see if we can draw from that when we start writing the record. Overwhelmingly, the most popular idea was finding your tribe, which I guess kind of makes sense because this is what it is. We're going to go with that, at least as an overarching theme. The rest of the ideas, like the diary, the mentors, the history sort of thing, all kind of had a similar level of interest or excitement. So maybe we're going to try and find a way to tie all that together underneath this overarching finding your tribe thing. Alma, who is actually filming this video, is working to put all the videos together and all the content together with me. Just had a really good idea because obviously everyone's ideas are welcome and she is now a part of the choir, whether she likes it or not. That writing a letter to your inner child or writing a letter to like a younger version of yourself about a particular event that you went through and how you kind of have learned and giving advice to that inner child of how to process that or how to deal with it at the time. I turned around and said, well, I've actually got a letter to my 18-year-old self that I wrote once as part of like an exercise, and she said she's done the same thing and it's actually quite a common thing to do. So maybe that could be a really cool thing for us to explore as an extra little idea to throw into the mix. Is like, yeah, maybe we have like a letter to my 16-year-old self, letter to my 14-year-old self, letter to my 12-year-old self. That could be a thing. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well. So this leads me to my next question, which is what I want you guys to think about this week and come back to me with. Can you guys think of creative ways or interesting ways to tie the other three ideas together under the umbrella of finding your tribe? So we kind of talked about, all right, maybe historical figures can be mentors to people by reading their diary entries or something like that. Or maybe we can have a diary that's like somehow being written in by people in the modern day and then people in history, and there's like, you're seeing the different struggles but also the similarities between them. I'd love for you guys to get creative, and there's no bad ideas in a brainstorming session, but yeah, I'd love to hear some ways in which we could tie some of these themes together. Feel free to add new themes in. I want to get as many different angles of this problem as possible. So good luck. I'm very keen to hear from you, read your emails, read your comments, and thank you once again for everyone who have contributed. If you thought, maybe I don't have anything interesting to say, just say hi. Just say, hey Pace, I don't know what to say, but I appreciate the project or something like that, because I want to hear from you. Of course I do. I don't want to make these videos into an empty void. So yeah, just say hi. I will reply back to everybody. And yeah, much love, big kiss, and I'll see you next time.